This is Jim Fetzer, your host on The Real Deal, continuing my conversation with Ernst Zundel. Ernst, you were talking about Canada, the Canadian government deciding to deny you Canadian citizenship after your campaign without giving a reason. What is your suspicion as to the real reason they did that?
Oh, I can tell you that quite bluntly. Here I was a dark horse candidate, independent in organization and money, not beholden to any lobby, and that would have been a very difficult thing for the old established political system in Canada to cope with. I was like an independent. I was a bit like the American, what's his name? You know, the presidential candidate from Texas, the doctor.
Ross Perot.
Oh, no.
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul. I was the Ron Paul of Canada, you know, at the time. But here's just a little vignette. I am with my German passport in my pocket, my party platform in my wallet or case, and suddenly I'm in the building, in the basement of this sports stadium where the convention was taking place, and I hear over the intercom, "Would candidate Ernst Zundel please come to the speaker's podium? Your speaking time has begun." Oh, and I grabbed my case and dashed up the stairs, and suddenly, rising out of nowhere, stood this huge Mountie, 2 meters tall, in front of me in his red jacket and uniform. And he said, "Where do you think you are going?"
He wasn't going to let you speak?
He challenged me, you know, so I pointed, with all the chutzpah I could muster, I pointed at my delegate's badge. And I said, "Did you hear the intercom just now? They're calling my name. My speaking time has begun. I am candidate Ernst Zundel." And he saluted smartly, stepped aside, and I walked up to the podium and spoke to 30,000 Liberals, live audience in the sports stadium in Ottawa.
So he was actually only blocking you because he didn't realize you were the speaker?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's fortunate.
Isn't that something?
I thought he might have been blocking you because he did know you were the speaker.
No. I bluffed my way back past the Mountie, and behind me on the podium were all the other 7 candidates, the future Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, the Foreign Minister, and so on, you know. I spooled off my trilingual speech, and it was, of course, nationally broadcast and so on, and I went down to the headquarters of the Liberal Party in that sports stadium, and I said, "I would like to withdraw from the contest." They were flabbergasted. And you know, Jim, why I did that? I didn't know they were going to deny me citizenship. And so I didn't want to be known as the 200 or 100 or 50 or 10 or even one voice cast candidate. I had hoped that I had a political future in Canada, and I didn't want to have this millstone around my neck, that my Mickey Mouse campaign, which I fought with my own money, would kind of sink my future political chances, and I did not finish the counting of the votes. In other words, they had to spend an hour when the votes were being cast that my name was not on the ballot. Now, why would I do that? I went into that campaign only to speak up for the German and Canadian immigrant section of the voters, because they were not being properly represented, and there was this anti-German hate propaganda going on in that land at that time, and I was the one that wanted to use that opportunity for a national platform to speak against it, and I did.
Well, it would have been terribly interesting to see how the vote would have gone.
Yeah.
My suspicion is you probably would have finished 3rd or 4th, no worse.
Yeah. But you see, you know what the problem was, Jim Fetzer? I had no political advisors. I had no political experience. It was, by the seat of my pants, really a maverick candidature.
But the people were responding to that. I have no doubt, Ernst.
Absolutely. The Canadian press was saying there's something wrong with Canadian politics when an unknown like Ernst Zundel can gather such support and such accolades. You know?
I'd put it the other way around. I'd say there's something right about Canadian politics when an unknown like Ernst Zundel can garner such support and receive such accolades.
Yeah, Jim, that's what I was feeling myself. Thank you for giving me the compliment.
Yeah, had I been your campaign manager, I would have said, by all means, stay in.
In hindsight, and with the wisdom of the years gone by, it was a foolish thing to have dropped out. But you see, sometimes in the heat of battle or passion or whatever it was, I did not want to be saddled with having the stigma of not having gathered so many votes, you know.
But you actually would have done tremendously well, I'm quite confident. I mean, you may not have won, but I think you would have made a very impressive showing.
Right. It was a mistake, and I know it was a mistake that I dropped out because although they denied me after about 2 months, they denied me my citizenship, I would have been a political force to be reckoned with, you know.
I believe that's true.
Yeah, but I was too inexperienced and politically not suave enough, you know.
And the commission,
I was a firebrand.